आप सभी का इस महत्वपूर्ण शैक्षणिक आयोजन में हार्दिक स्वागत करती हूँ। आज का ये कार्यक्रम जीजस मैरी कॉलेज दिल्ली के विश्वविद्यालय हिंदी विभाग एवं इतिहास विभाग के संयुक्त तत्वाधान में आयोजित किया गया है। आज हम यहाँ एक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर विचार विमर्श करने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं। स्त्री शिक्षा और साझी विरासत, सावित्रीबाई फूले और फातिमा शेख। यह विशेष व्याख्यान सावित्रीबाई फूले एवं फातिमा शेख की जयंती के अवसर पर आयोजित
and Filmmaker as well. And of course, I want to just add here and say a very, very formidable activist. And there's a personal touch to my journey with Uma, which I just wanted to share with the audience. And it's not just academics, her being an established historian and also a scholar of women's studies. But my first interaction with motherly figure, talking to almost everyone in the rally. And that was my first, impression of her, a 16, 17-year-old class 11, 12 student. And of course, there have been so many other movements and campaigns that one has seen her active and articulated about.
So, looking at 19th century history, let's look at 19th century history in Maharashtra. With this eye, 4% population had access to these schools. There's a very good study of middle class, B.B. Mishra, the growth of the middle class. He has chapters on who takes to this English education, who are the people who go to schools. Now, it's not the Kundis and the middle class, agricultural class, and certainly not the lower orders. It is essentially what was all to come and speak to you people. I was also given the brief, so the topic was decided and so on. Now, this is a topic which I'm very, very interested in because I actually, those of you who are historians or even the Hindi students will know that our history has been written initially, at least in the 19th century, with a very strong Bengal focus. And although I carry the name Chakravarti, I'm not a Bengali. Okay? So,
धन्यवाद।
Today, as we gather to reflect on the theme Educating Women, Forging Alliance, Savitribai Phule and Fatima Sheikh, we remember two extraordinary women who turned education into a powerful tool of resistance and social change. Savitribai Phule was not only India's first woman teacher, but also a fearless social reformer.
So it's so instrumental that they start teaching them. They start making them literate. मतलब वो भी मर्द डिसाइड करेंगे कि चलो तुमको पढ़ा देते हैं ताकि तुम मेरे साथ ना बात कर सको, बाकी तो तुम गंवार हो। So this is the attitude with which they are creating this dynamic. Okay. So anyway, they do that, and all this is well documented. And I actually came to the subject. You've already been given a small summary by Maya and your students who have described the relationship between, why our focus today is on Savitribai Phule and on Fatima Sheikh. Now, I think it's
नमस्कार, आप सभी का इस महत्वपूर्ण शैक्षणिक आयोजन में हार्दिक स्वागत करती हूँ। आज का ये कार्यक्रम जीजस मैरी कॉलेज दिल्ली के विश्वविद्यालय हिंदी विभाग एवं इतिहास विभाग के संयुक्त तत्वाधान में आयोजित किया गया है। आज हम यहाँ एक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर विचार विमर्श करने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं। स्त्री शिक्षा और साझी विरासत, सावित्रीबाई फूले और फातिमा शेख। यह विशेष व्याख्यान सावित्रीबाई फूले एवं फातिमा शेख की जयंती के अवसर पर आयोजित।
Opening himself to reading, he reads a lot from books that are published in America. Democratic material that is being published in America. They also get through their own movements and so on. In fact, one of his books is Giri is actually dedicated to the people of the United States. So you can see that the democratic agenda is very different from what the government was trying to do and what the English education Peshwaras were trying to promote the Brahmins and so on, when these narrow class of people. So you're looking at 19th century history. Let's look at 19th century history in Maharashtra with this eye. 4% population had access to these schools. There's a very good study of middle class, B.B. Mishra, the growth of the middle class. He has chapters on who takes to the secondary education, who are the people who go to schools. Now, it's not the Kundis and the middle class, agricultural class, and certainly not the lower orders. It is essentially what was already. It's seriously, or we do have material. To this day, we still have less material because the archive is usually in English and is stuck with the state Karnami. So, it doesn't actually, it's not democratic. Subjects which are going to be pliant to the male agenda, it's the really revolutionary thing. And so, in that exercise, now nobody wants women to be educated because some of them can see the power of what will it lead? It will lead to questioning. Nobody wants anyone to question. Lower orders and women certainly not. Perhaps even other men, they don't want it. You want to control education. You want to ensure that you ratta lagaya, usi ko padho. You don't want anything more than that because sochne ki capacity में से फिर तो questions हम पूछेंगे और पूछोगे तो फिर सारा the whole thing, whole system begins to shake when you do that kind of. So anyway, there's Savitri. The school is on, they suffer enormous discrimination from the people, they throw powder at them, the janta around them knows is ye ho kya raha hai, and they are quite agitated about the fact that you are doing this thing which is, they'll say it's unshastric, but they can also see why it is dangerous. So to say the whole system starts to मतलब उसमें बिगाड़ जाता है पूरा struggle to access knowledge. So it's a very interesting collection. So कई तरह की writings हैं. But by the time you come to the 20th century, you have novelists and so on. So it's very this is one of the things that we have to do in order to say that look, हमारी भी इतिहास है जिसमें we were not satisfied. We have reduced the debate and the understanding to narrow छोटे टुकड़े बना करके खिलाया जा रहा है लोगों को, गुट्टी पिलाई जा रही है, and इससे फिर people are satisfied with that. That scenario is now in the 20th century being reformulated by this understanding that knowledge for itself. And Mukta by Salve, this 13-year-old girl, which is extraordinary, it would have been lost to history. That piece of writing was found. So that's the power of the educated person who really can see the power of the world. So I think the agenda of opening a school for girls in a time when your innate thinking capacity has already been stored and it comes. So that's where the power of education lies. It doesn't lie in learning mechanically, ABCD or whatever it is. It is in what it will tell you what you need to do in order to understand the world, to analyze the world, to be able to argue for yourself, to think for yourself, to be critical of whatever you see around you, not to accept blindly what is being told to you, which is the Pahara system, is one way, or even learning the text by heart is a method by which you can pass the examination, but the moment you're asked a serious question, you'll be stuck, you won't be able to analyze. So that is what Phule is trying to do, and he writes Gulamgiri, he writes stories about, the form that he uses is also very interesting. He does poeras, he does sort of nataks, that are taken around and speak and so on. So he is using popular means by which he is propagating what he is thinking. It's with that context that he opens a school for girls. It is very interesting.